what is it about motorcycles and fashion? To be sure, the sport of motorcycling has always played some sort of a role when it comes to trendsetting. I mean, besides being incredibly fun, everyone knows that riding a motorcycle has always been hip and cool. And as a result, motorcycle riders have from time to time influenced all sorts of cultural trendsetters. Here in North America back in the 20s, riders recognized that leather not only provided great protection from the elements, it also looked pretty darn smart, especially next to a motorcycle. Hence the very dapper, full-length leather waistcoats and knee-high riding boots of the era. That fashionable riding look was then followed up in the 50s by short-waisted leather bomber jackets and aviator caps, a look popularized in films like The Wild Ones and Hollywood stars such as Brando and Elvis. That outlaw look was replaced by the hippie fringe in the 70s, while in the 90s the leather jacket was replaced by the leather vest. Then for a while the tech boom meant everything went textile. But today we have a new motorcycle riding look emerging, made popular by a new generation of riders who also embrace microbrews, charcuterie plates, flannel shirts, and beards. And in this case, the motorcycles those folks have chosen to ride and the gear they wear while riding is very fashionable. I'm talking about the very cool and hip BMW R9T, the Triumph Thruxton, the new Honda CB1100, Ducati Scrambler, and Moto Guzzi's V7 Special. Retro rides that definitely bring out the hipster in everyone. This week, my buddy Mark Russell and I take a look at 3 of those retro runners.
So Mark, we've just finished spending the day with some road testers and these 3 units, the Thruxton, the Scrambler, the V7 II, Moto Guzzi, and boy, what a fun day.
Oh yeah, awesome. We had good weather all day too. I gotta say, when I walked up this morning, saw these 3 bikes there. They're 3 authentic, classic motorcycles. You know, it does a little of that for you. And riding them was fun. It was as good as I expected, and in some ways better than I expected, because this is not a 40-year-old bike that failed to start. It's, you know, a modern motorcycle, rode the way it's supposed to. The Ducati has Ducati's V-twin engine that's super strong, and so that engine in a sport bike is fantastic. In a standard or a monster, it's a great bike to ride.
Yeah.
And the Guzzi is as smooth as you expect a Guzzi to be, and this model in the V7 Racer, sort of a cool, you know, old school sport bike, Café Racer look.
Yeah.
Is really great. And I gotta say, riding with my friends, the 3 of us on country roads and through town, 3 bikes like this is sort of fun to be in that group, and yeah, it was fun.
You know what I find really interesting is that 5 years ago, this segment really didn't exist. I don't know whether we should be talking about naked bikes and cafe bikes or whether we should be talking about hipsters, but there's something about this bike and these bikes and how they appeal to that hipster segment, you know, 30 to 35-year-old males.
Yeah, maybe part of the reason for that might be that the super bikes and sport bikes of today are intimidating.
Yeah.
That's not the kind of bike to start riding, and these are friendly. They work. These are the kind of bikes we learned to ride on back in the day, and I'm not a young hipster. I like these bikes for what they represent in my memory. Those guys might like them just because they're actually practical, easy to ride. If you're riding around in the city, you know, any gear will do. You can roll up to the cafe or the restaurant you're going to and park in front, because parking's easy in a city with a bike. And any of these bikes you can bring a passenger on, which is a challenge on a super bike, because it's just not it's barely comfortable in the rider's seat, but in the passenger seat, forget it.
Yeah.
These all hold 2 people. You could go all afternoon. You could go for a little ride in the evening downtown. It's going to be fun for both people on the bike.
Yeah.
I can see the appeal.
So if we're looking at these 3 motorcycles, I would say the Triumph Thruxton definitely hits the mark in terms of the look.
Yeah.
The sound. It's a complete replica of something you would see a Café Racer from 1969, right?
Yep. Yeah. It's got all the stuff we would have put on that bike when we bought it, because they never came like this in the day.
The Moto Guzzi, this is such a classic standard, a little higher bar, wider mirrors, nice banana saddle, I'm looking retro 1972.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
classic sort of standard, except maybe Moto Guzzi might not have been all that classic to us back in the day.
Well, they were expensive because they were Italian.
The surprising thing is this hybrid sort of approach that Ducati has taken, where they call this the Scrambler. I see where they're going. It's kind of California desert racer kind of thing from early 1970s, but there's a lot of modern stuff there.
And it rode like a modern bike. It handles really well because it's so light and narrow.
Yeah.
And brakes well. You only need one disc on any of these bikes, and they have all the braking power you need.
Yeah.
And I will say there's a good cool factor to these. Like the Thruxton is really authentic, and everything they've done for its look and feel is authentic. The Scrambler is kind of a new idea, but the cool factor for this is, I'd say, high. So if that's important to you, and you know it is to a lot of people, this is an Italian work of art. It's not just some low-cost mode of transportation. This is special.
Yeah.
Same with the Guzzi. Like something from Italy, that's like buying a Ferrari for $10,000. And whether you're going on a weekend trip or just rolling downtown up to a restaurant or a club, there's some cachet that comes from having something as special as that.
Yeah. Well, I guess net, I'm really glad we did this.
Yeah.
Because it was an eye-opening experience. It was great to go back in time, but in some ways, it was great to move forward.
Yeah. Totally modern and retro at the same time, which I guess is what retro is.
Cool.